deer was standing upright when David found it, not lying down, not caught in brush, standing. On its hind legs, like a man waiting for a bus. He was 14 years into his post as a park ranger in the Bisti Badlands. 14 years of solo patrols through red rock and scrub desert. He knew every animal in that territory, knew their tracks, their habits, their sounds. He could tell a mule deer from a whitetail by the shape of its droppings. He knew how a deer stands, how it grazes, how it runs. And he knew, the moment he saw it, that this was not a deer. The skin was wrong, too loose, hanging off the bones like a suit, 2 sizes too big, and the proportions were off. The legs were too long for the body. The neck bent at an angle no deer's neck should bend. It had been a strange week from the start. On Monday, he found the coyote carcass near the wash. No wounds, no blood, just an empty skin, like something had unzipped itself and walked away. The inside of the skin was clean, no muscle, no fat, no connective tissue. He'd never seen anything like it. He radioed it in. Dispatch told him to tag it and move on. On Tuesday, his radio picked up a frequency that shouldn't exist out here. A voice repeating his name, David, 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 flat. No inflection, like someone reading his name off a card. He checked the channel. It was his own voice. He turned the radio off. The voice kept going for 3 more repetitions before it stopped. By Thursday, the track started. Deer prints in the soft earth near his cabin. But wrong, too deep, too far apart, as if the animal was heavier than any deer had a right to be. The stride was 6 feet. A mule deer's stride is 2, maybe 3. He followed them for half a mile before they changed. 1 step deer, next step deer, then a human footprint. Bear. 5 toes, then deer again. No pause, no stumble, as if shifting between shapes was as natural as breathing. That night, he locked his cabin door for the first time in 6 years. He checked the windows. He drew the curtains. He put his rifle on the kitchen table, within reach. He was making coffee when the scratching began. Low on the door, the height of a deer's antlers, slow, deliberate. Not the frantic scratching of an animal caught in something. This was patient. This was someone knocking. Then a voice, his mother's voice. David, let me in. It is cold out here. His mother had been dead for 9 years. He buried her in Albuquerque. He watched them lower the casket. He threw the first handful of dirt. He didn't open the door. He sat on the floor with his rifle across his knees and listened. The voice cycled through people he'd known. His ex-wife, his old partner, a friend from college. Each one asking to come inside. Each one slightly wrong. The cadence off. The vowels too flat. His ex-wife said his name with the emphasis on the wrong syllable. His partner used a phrase he'd never heard him say. It was learning, adjusting, getting closer with each attempt. Like something wearing a voice the way it wore a skin. At 3 in the morning, the scratching stopped. The voices stopped too, all at once. Like someone hit a switch. David waited another hour before he moved. He crawled to the window on his hands and knees. He looked through the window. It was standing in the moonlight, 20 yards away, a deer's body. But the head was turned all the way around, facing the cabin. No animal can do that. No deer can look backward over its own spine. And it was smiling, not a deer's mouth, a human smile. Wide, knowing. Its eyes caught the moonlight and threw it back like a cat's. It held his gaze for 10 seconds, maybe 15. Long enough for David to understand that it knew he was watching. Then it turned and walked into the desert on 2 legs, the deerskin flapping around its ankles, like a coat it hadn't bothered to button. David wrote his report that morning. Unusual wildlife activity near cabin. No threat identified. He didn't mention the voices. He didn't mention the smile. Who would believe him? A ranger with 20 years of service, claiming a deer, knocked on his door and spoke in his dead mother's voice. He transferred to a desk job in Albuquerque the following month. No explanation, no complaint. Just a transfer request, approved in 2 days. He lives in the city now. Concrete and streetlights. 3rd floor apartment. Deadbolt. Chain lock. No windows that face east toward the desert. But he told me something once, after too many drinks. He said the worst part wasn't the smile. It was that the eyes looked human, not like an animal pretending, like a person trapped behind a deer's face, asking him to open the door. He said he still hears his mother's voice some nights, calling from the parking lot outside his apartment. The words are different now. She doesn't ask him to come outside anymore. She says, "I'm already inside, David." He never looks out the window. My grandmother stopped speaking English the summer she saw the dog that wasn't a dog. She was 82, sharp as anyone in the family. She'd lived her whole life on the reservation and spoke perfect English when she wanted to. She taught 3rd grade for 30 years. She could switch between languages mid-sentence without stumbling. But after that morning in June, she switched to Navajo and never switched back. Not for the doctor, not for the census taker, not even for my little cousin who only spoke English. We were gathered at her house for my cousin's graduation. 20 people, maybe more. Kids running through the yard. Someone grilling mutton. Grandma was sitting by the window like she always did, watching the road. She did that every day. Watched the road from sunrise to sunset. She never told us why. Then she stood up, slow, both hands on the table. Her face went gray. Not pale, gray, like the color had been pulled out of her skin. And she said, in Navajo, "It is here. It followed the children home." My mother translated for the rest of us. Her hands were shaking. Nobody asked what she meant. Nobody laughed. Every adult in that room went quiet. Indian tradition, there are things a person can become if they break the deepest taboos. Murder a family member, perform the wrong ceremonies. Walk the path of the Yin al-Dushi, the one who goes on all fours. Grandma never used that word. She called it the thing that wears skins. And she said it had been following our family for 3 generations. She said her own grandmother had seen it. A bear that walked like a woman. It came to her hogan one winter and spoke in the voice of a child who had died that fall. Her grandmother survived it, but she never slept without a light again. That night, she made us all sleep in the same room. 20 people on the floor. Blankets and sleeping bags. The kids in the middle. The adults around the edges. She drew lines of cedar ash across every doorway. She hung bundles of dried herbs above the windows and told us not to answer if anyone called our names from outside. She was specific about this. She pointed at each of us in turn. Not your mother's voice, not your father's voice, not even your own name in your own voice. My little cousin started crying. Grandma held her and whispered something I couldn't hear. The child stopped crying immediately. She fell asleep in Grandma's arms within minutes. I was 17. I didn't believe her. I thought it was all superstition. The kind of thing elders said to keep kids from wandering off at night. I lay on the floor with my sleeping bag and stared at the ceiling, listening to my family breathe. My uncle snored. A baby whimpered somewhere. The house creaked in the wind. Around 2 in the morning, I heard it. A dog pacing outside the house. The sound of its nails on the hard dirt. Back and forth, back and forth. Heavy nails, a heavy animal. The rhythm was too even, too deliberate for a stray. Then it stopped at the window above my head. I looked up. Through the curtain, I could see a shape, large, too large for any dog on the reservation. The size of a German shepherd, maybe bigger. But the proportions were wrong. The shoulders were too high. the back too straight. It was sitting on its haunches, staring at the window, and its eyes were the color of my grandmother's eyes. That specific brown, with the gold ring around the iris that runs in our feet. I didn't move for the rest of the night. I lay flat on my back with my eyes open, watching the curtain, listening to it breathe on the other side of the glass. At dawn, the dog was gone, but the cedar ash on the doorstep was disturbed. Something had pressed a paw into it. The print had 5 toes, like a human hand, and the ash line was broken. Something had crossed it, or tried to. Grandma looked at the print for a long time. She knelt down. She touched the edge of it with one finger. Then she looked at me, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Not fear, resignation, like she'd been expecting this her entire life and had hoped she was wrong. She said, "It knows your scent now. It will follow you when you leave this place, but it cannot enter your home unless you invite it. Never say its name aloud, never look it in the eyes, and never ever follow it into the dark." She pressed a small bundle of herbs into my palm and closed my fingers around it. "Keep this above your door. Replace it every spring, and if it falls, do not sleep in that house until you have replaced it." I left for college that August, Phoenix, 300 miles from the reservation. I hung the bundle above my dorm room door and told myself it was just tradition, just respect for Grandma. The first week, I saw a large dog crossing the parking lot outside my dorm. It stopped and looked at me. Those eyes, that specific brown with the gold ring. I looked away. I walked inside. I didn't say its name. That was 10 years ago. I've seen it 7 times since then, in parking lots. Once, in the hallway of my office building at midnight. Always the same dog. Always too large. Always those eyes. It never approaches. It never calls my name. It just watches, waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for me to invite it in. My grandmother died last spring. At the funeral, my mother told me that Grandma had spent the last year of her life member of the family. There were 47 bundles in her closet, one for each of us, each one labeled in her careful handwriting, each one wrapped in red cloth. She'd been making them for years, as if she knew she wouldn't always be here to stand between us and the thing that follows the blood. I keep mine above my front door. Last week, I came home and found it on the floor. The string had been cut, not frayed, cut clean, like with a knife. I live alone. I don't own a knife sharp enough to cut that cord. That night, I heard the dog outside my apartment, 3rd floor, the nails on the linoleum hallway, back and forth. I haven't slept since. We heard ourselves calling from the trees, not echoes, not recordings, our own voices, speaking words we hadn't said yet. There were 4 of us, me, Ray, Danny, and Marcus. We'd been camping together every summer since high school. 12 years running, same weekend in July. Different spot each time. That year we picked a spot near the boundary of the Navajo Nation. Up in the foothills where the peon pines get thick. Danny found it on a map, remote. No cell service, no other campsites within 5 miles. Perfect, we thought. Just us and the wilderness. Nobody at the campsite that first night, just us and the stars and the fire burning low. Ray was telling some stupid ghost story. Danny was half asleep. Marcus was feeding sticks into the flames. The fire cast long shadows into the tree line, the kind that make you think something is moving when nothing is. Normal. Everything was normal. Then Danny sat up. His eyes were wide, alert, not the look of someone who'd been dozing. Did one of you just say my name? But I'd heard it too, faint, from somewhere past the firelight. Danny, Danny, come here. It was Ray's voice, but Ray was sitting right next to me. I could see his mouth. It was closed. Ray heard it too. I watched his face go slack. "That is me," he said. "That is my voice out there." He said it like he was trying to convince himself it wasn't. We all went quiet. The fire popped. Something in the trees shifted. Not wind. Something with weight, moving between the trunks. Then we heard Marcus's voice, clear as daylight. "Hey guys, come look at this. Over here." Marcus was standing right behind me. I could see him. His hands were in his pockets. His jaw was tight. But the voice kept talking. It said things Marcus would say. His exact phrases. His laugh. "Come on. Don't be weird. Just come over here." That was Marcus's line. The thing he said whenever someone hesitated. The thing he'd said 100 times. Then my voice joined in, calling Danny's name. Then Ray's, then Marcus's, a version of me, out in the dark, inviting my friends to walk away from the fire. Then Danny's voice came from the trees, asking us to come find him, asking us to come into the dark. And the worst part, it sounded exactly right. Not a single wrong vowel. Not one off note. If I closed my eyes, I couldn't tell the difference between the voice in the trees and the man sitting beside me. Ray grabbed a flashlight and swept the tree line. The beam cut through the dark, peon trunks, juniper branches, the edge of a dry wash. Nothing, just peon and juniper and the edge of the dark. The voices stopped the moment the light touched the trees, like they were watching, like they knew what light meant. The second Ray lowered the flashlight, they started again, softer this time, almost gentle. We fed the fire, made it big. Nobody wanted to be in the dark. We burned through half our firewood in an hour. Neither of us cared. Marcus said we should pack up and leave. Then he said it was probably just echoes of the canyon walls. Nobody believed him, but nobody argued either. Ray didn't say anything. He was staring at the trees. He'd gone quiet in a way I'd never seen before. Ray was the loud one, the joker, and he was silent. Then he stood up. "I need to take a leak," he said, and started walking toward the edge of the light. I told him not to go far. He waved me off and stepped past the firelight. We watched his silhouette shrink until the dark swallowed it. 2 minutes passed, then 5. I called his name. No answer. I called again. Louder. Nothing came back. Then from the dark, Ray's voice. "I'm good. Just give me a sec." But I'd heard that exact sentence 10 minutes ago. From the trees, before Ray ever left the fire. Word for word. Same tone. Same pause between good and just. We looked at each other, and I saw the same thought cross his face. The voices hadn't been echoing us. They'd been rehearsing, learning our patterns, our rhythms, the way we talk to each other, and now they were ready to perform. Marcus grabbed the biggest stick from the fire and walked toward where Ray had gone. The end was still burning, orange embers trailing smoke. I went with him. Danny stayed by the fire with a flashlight. We found Ray 30 yards out, standing still, facing the trees. His arms were at his sides. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening to something. "Ray." He turned around. He smiled. "What? Why are you guys out here?" But Marcus didn't lower the stick, because Ray's voice was coming from 2 places at once. From the man standing in front of us, and from somewhere deeper in the trees behind him, both saying the same words, at the same time, in the same tone. We grabbed him and ran back to the fire. Ray didn't resist. He didn't ask questions. He ran with us. All 4 of us huddled around the flames, watching the dark. The voices started again. All 4 of us now, talking to each other from the trees, having a conversation we hadn't had, saying things we might say, laughing our laughs. It sounded like 4 friends around a campfire. It sounded exactly like us, like a rehearsal for being us. We left at first light, didn't bother packing the tent. We threw the sleeping bags in the truck and drove 4 hours in silence. None of us turned on the radio. None of us spoke. We never went camping together again. But here is the part I can't shake. Last month, Ray called me, said he'd been thinking about that night. Said he wanted to talk about it in person. Said it was important. He said, "Come over. I'll make coffee." I was about to say yes, then I remembered. Ray doesn't drink coffee. He has never drunk coffee. He's never drunk coffee. Always has. I asked him a question only Ray would know the answer to. I asked him what we buried in the backyard of his parents' house when we were 15. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear breathing, slow, patient, not the breathing of someone thinking. Then my own voice answered back.